Thanks to some of the folks in my Discord, I managed to stumble upon a YouTube short by the Gaming Rift that ranks all the P-06 characters from worst to best. And I went, I know a little bit about that game. So I decided to do my own list ranking the P-06 characters from worst to best with a lot of in-depth explanation for why each character is in the place they're in. As I state in the video though, this tier list is just vibes only. I don't have any specific reasons or rules set for why each character should fit in what place, because whenever I set rules for tier lists, I end up just not following them by the end of the tier list anyway, so why set them in the first place? But yeah, that's all I gotta yap to you about from the webcam, so let's get started. The Gaming Rift ranked all of the Project 06 characters from worst to best. And I figure I've played Project 06 a little bit, so I think it would be pretty fun to go ahead and take my perspective on ranking the characters from worst to best. I got Project 06 open. We're probably gonna bounce between it. I'm using the photo mod and the character switcher mod so that we can take a look. Let's go ahead and talk about it, and I'm sure chat will love to have their opinions in there. And if I remember to, I'll put YouTube chat somewhere on here as well. Now, before I get started, I want to say that this is worst of the best. Every single one of these characters, I fully believe that this is their best 3D incarnation. So we're ranking legends here. Getting started, let's go ahead with our first character on the list. It's gotta be Omega. I'm sorry, Philip. Omega, I think, is the weakest of all the characters. Obviously, we're including like characters in all of their styles. So like Sonic, Princess, Snowboard, and Mach Speed are all Sonic, because I didn't feel like that would be terribly fair. While Omega has some really cool abilities, like his pea shooter is really awesome. That can lock onto 5 enemies and stuff, and he's got the Gatling gun mode. He doesn't really excel at the platforming aspect of P-06. His airspeed, he has the slowest airspeed of every character, and you just kind of hover with him. Like in the speed run, all we do, every time we jump with Omega, if we can, we hover, just because it's that much faster. And in fact, Omega's hover speed was actually, oh god, I should grab some rings. Omega's hover speed was actually sped up. Him not being able to spin jump sucks. I would love to see him gain a spin jump of some sort. It doesn't have to be him actually curling into a ball, but just having the functionality of the spin jump and the badnik bounce like the rest of the characters do, I think would be really nice. I would also be okay if his hover speed got increased further, or I don't think this is terribly out of the scope of the game. He could have an RT ability where while you're hovering, if you press RT, you can put more juice into it to go faster, but you use up more action gauge. I don't think that that would be bad either. And it kind of like stays within the idea Chaos has of not having the Amigo characters be too busted. Also, for this tier list, I could pretend to make up rules, but it's basically just based on vibes. Because I feel like every time I do a tier list, I start with like an established set of rules, and then by the end of it, I'm just, I'm completely off base of what I had originally set out to do. So this is just, yeah, it's a vibe-coded tier list. Exactly. That's my reasoning for Omega. Slowest character, not a lot of platforming capabilities. While he's got good combat abilities, and especially in the roguelike coming soon, TM, he's pretty fun to mess around with. I don't think he's like super amazing or anything. Next up on our list of weakest character is one that I'm really sad that I have to put here, but it's Tails. Tails is so fucking cool in Project 06 for one main reason, is that his flight is tied to the action gauge. So as you defeat enemies, the cores that you get refill his action gauge and allow you to fly for longer, which is something we take advantage of in every section he's in. Well, okay, in half of the sections he's in. We take advantage of it in Aquatic Base and in Tails Wave Ocean. But obviously, the limited flight, not super great. He's not terribly fast either. The fastest he goes is 17 meters per second. I also love his ability to, in the air, use the tail swipe. It doubles not only as a flight cancel, which he can then reinitiate afterward, but also he can do a little bonk on enemies, even though he can naturally jump into enemies, which is great. Being able to bonk on top of enemies too is really nice. So while Tails Again, this is worst of the best. While Tails, like, doesn't compare to the other characters of Project 06, he still is very fun to play as. Also, we have the Rhythm Badge ability, too. I'm trying to not be too redundant because I have an entire main channel video where I rank every single character ability against each other, but I guess this is more like ranking them, like, how it all goes together. This isn't really something I'm basing this tier list off of, but Tails Wave Ocean is just, like, a really lazy level. Tailspin could be good for groups or score attack, yeah. Totally. But for me, based on vibes, I think that the other characters that we haven't selected yet are better than Tails. Unfortunately. I wish Tails was better. I think that there's a change coming in the last release, at least currently. Obviously, all of it's subject to change as development on Project 06 continues. But one of the changes is that Tails' flight is going to operate more like the classic games, where as you're ascending, Tails is going to slow down, like horizontally. His horizontal speed is going to decrease. And I don't know what the main reason is for it, but I know we are able to do a thing right now in Silver Release where you can mash the fly button, and that allows you to go higher and further. You just don't ascend as quickly, obviously. Because when Tails is just flying like this, he uses less action gauge, but you don't decelerate fast enough to where it doesn't even out. It's only a positive gain, net gain there, which we use for some speedrunning tricks and stuff. But thing I hope that happens is that when you are in free fall mode, like after your action gauge runs out, or you let go of the A button while you still have action gauge, that Tails will gradually gain speed in the air, like he does in the classic games. Since him slowing down while he's ascending is part of the classic games, I would hope that that other part makes it into. If that change is implemented without the decreasing height speed increase, then the fastest way Tails can move is just holding forward, and that's really boring. So, because right now, Tails' flight is 1 unit of speed faster than his running speed. He runs at 16, he flies at 17. I would like to see that change implemented if that's the route Chaos goes, is that while you're descending in flight or you're in the air after using your flight, Tails will increase his horizontal speed. It doesn't have to be crazy, but just speeding it up a little bit just to make his movement more fun. All right, I can't believe, I thought that was going to be like the fastest character to talk about, but it wasn't. Next up on the list, again, one I don't really love putting here, but one that I think needs to go here is Knuckles. And I'll explain why I put Knuckles underneath Rouge in a minute. It'll be pretty clear, I think. Unfortunately, in Project 06, Knuckles just isn't utilized, like, at all. All you do is glide around his sections and stuff. And something that I think is a pretty cool limiting factor on both Knuckles and Rouge is that the collision has to be specifically tagged as climbable for them to be able to climb on it at all. So as you saw there against that tube, Knuckles couldn't climb it. Where is he? There he is. But, like, he can climb on this. Because it's specifically tagged as climbable, which when doing like randomizers or character switcher mods and stuff, it's interesting to not have the ability to climb. I think the best way to balance Rouge and Knuckles' gliding is literally just giving them the Breath of the Wild stamina meter. I think that'd be pretty cool. Someone suggested for Tails, like kind of like I said for Omega, that if you press RT, you go faster. I think I'd be okay with that. But the reason I suggested the, like, when you were descending, you move quicker is because it's the classic way. It's the way that the classic games do it. And since the ascending mechanics from the classic games are being put in, I figured it would make sense. The classic implementation for descending in flight to also be put in. Anywho, back to Knuckles. A lot of Knuckles' moves are pretty cool. You might not know about the screwdriver, which is essentially just like a grounded homing attack for him. That's pretty strong. Not worth using. His ground shaker got a huge buff in that it like stuns enemies. I don't think it does that in Retail 06. I don't know. The big thing is, if I could stop dying, I really need to grab some rings. The big thing is that a lot of Knuckles' combos, like it's cool that he has the dash punch and the crimson uppercut here, but they're kind of redundant because it's almost always better to use the Stonebreaker. Like, if you are going to use a combo, the Stonebreaker is the way to go. I'm fairly certain that Chaos is gonna add the ability for the enemies to be able to guard your attacks, kind of like they can do in Retail 06. And I think if, like, maybe the Crimson Uppercut could bypass the shielding on larger enemies, that would make Knuckles more interesting to play as, where, like, you would use the different combos for that sort of purpose. But if you decide to defeat the enemies in his section with him, because obviously it's just faster to do it as Sonic, in both cases, since you travel through the same thing. The Stonebreaker is just by far the better way to do it. Like, the Stonebreaker is just by far the correct choice 99% of the time. It does the most damage. It attacks, I think, in an area of effect. It's pretty small. There's no reason to use his Crimson Uppercut or anything. The Stonebreaker is just too good. And honestly, even better combat ability, just glide into the enemies. Because it just hits, like, multiple times and stuff. So, and that's kind of all that Knuckles has going for him, is he has all these melee abilities that, unfortunately, don't get used too much. But like I said in my P-06 exhaustive look video, is that I don't really mind if the characters in P-06 have, like, novel moves that are just there for the fun of it, because they're all mapped really well. I'm not gonna have an issue. If I want to do a ground shaker, it's gonna be a ground shaker. If I want to do the Stonebreaker, I'm gonna do the Stonebreaker. If I want to do the Screwdriver, I do the Screwdriver. There's no bouncing around same button bullshit that plagues a lot of Sonic games, especially the 3D ones. So I don't mind if the dash punch is there just as an Easter egg or as a reference, just as novelty, maybe if you want to use it or whatever. But in terms of, like, the actual usefulness of Knuckles, I think this is a good place for him to be. Next character, unsurprisingly, is going to be Rouge. I think Rouge is a little bit better. I'm going to reset here to respawn these enemies. The reason I think that Rouge is better than Knuckles, even if it is by a little bit of a margin, because they are very similar characters, is because, as I talked about at the end with Knuckles, how the best way to defeat enemies, even multi-hit ones, is to kind of just go into the ground shaker and then glide into them. Rouge can do the exact same thing. In addition to that, she can do her kicks as well. That enemy was a bad example. But, like, for the enemies you find intersections are doing it that way, where you glide and then do the ground shaker, like on the big robots there. She already has Knuckles' best combat option. She also has the exact same movement as Knuckles. She can glide, she can climb on walls. I believe their run speeds are the same. If not, there's a negligible difference between them. But yeah, see, I can do that. I can shock them. I can come over here to this Titan here, give him a stun, glide into him, maybe do another kick attack. I don't remember what it's called in P-06. I think it's the kick dive. But in addition to that, Rouge also has ranged options, and I was actually shocked. I did not realize until I did the character bio for Rouge, if you remember me doing those, that, like, her bomb projectiles are actually freaking sweet, especially this aerial attack that kind of keeps her moving like this. So not only does she have the best combat options and the same movement options that Knuckles does, she also has ranged abilities. So in a way, she's almost like a combination of Knuckles and Tails. And that makes her pretty good, even though she has a surprisingly simple moveset. In addition to that, of course, you can do this, like you do with Tails' dummy rings as well. If you want to send... For some reason, Tails and Rouge can just, like, fire their projectiles into the stratosphere. Like, I don't know when Rouge got yoked, but... like, I don't know why you can throw the bombs that far. Yeah, the aerial bombs, the Backcracker Mines, actually uses an unused model from retail, as many things in P-06 do. Her wings are also larger in P-06. Chaos increased the size of them. You also have this charge attack, which I don't really care for that much. I think, you know, doing her other combat options are just the better move. But yeah, Rouge in every sense is just a better Knuckles, and I'd argue also a better Tails, even though she can't ascend. P-06's level design just really doesn't challenge the player in that way of having, like, large vertical sections. Usually they have, like, springs or something. The only place I can really think of is the beginning of Tails' section of Aquatic Base, but they put a spring there for you because Tails has a height cap to his flight in Retail 06. So yeah, Rouge, just better than, like, she's literally just a combo of Knuckles and Tails, and just better character overall. Our next character is Amy. So Amy is obviously no-brainer improvement over Retail, of course. I think most people that have talked about P-06 like had usually mentioned this. And in addition to that, the main thing they mentioned with Amy is that people in Retail 06, most people wished there were less sections with Amy, whereas in P-06, folks wished that you played as Amy more. So if that's not, like, praise for transforming a character, I don't know what is, because it's, like, literally in the Silver Patch, Chaos increased or increase the length, like artificially increase the length of Amy's section just so we could play as her more before switching back to Silver. But yeah, obviously the hammer jump is really cool. Separating the adventure hammer jump into 2 different abilities is really neat, whether it was intentional or not, because obviously she had the double jump in the original game. But like having it to where you can either get the horizontal distance, the vertical distance, or both is really cool. Obviously her hammer spin absolutely obliterates enemies. Well, if you actually do it. And then, of course, I don't know if this is, like, good balancing or whatever. We know that she gets dizzy if she hammer spins for too long. But what you can do, obviously, is, like, before she gets dizzy, all you have to do is not die, first off. If you want to spam the spinning hammer, just let go of the B button before she gets dizzy, and the counter resets. So I don't know if there should, like, be a delay. Again, you don't play as Amy often enough to where it really matters. Whether or not this ability is broken, so I would put it into more of the novelty category. And then, of course, you have her air hammer jump, which is pretty cool to use. If you use the character switcher in, like, Flame Core, it's really cool to chain the hammer jumps on enemies and stuff. So, obviously, Amy, again, kind of like Rouge, really simple moveset, but insane upgrade. And also, I love that she can just jump into enemies normally. Like every character can except for Omega. That's just a flat good thing that I would love to see from every Sonic character in the series if they're making a platformer, is being able to jump into enemies and do the Badnik bounce. I think it's core to the franchise. But yeah, that's Amy. Oh yeah, and the invisibility is not here, and I don't really care if it's here one way or the other, because invisibility doesn't really matter, especially with how much more capable she is. As a character, she doesn't need to avoid enemies because she can just obliterate them with her moves. But if, like, just for fun, Amy's invisibility was added back onto the Y button or something like that, I wouldn't be against it. Again, as long as it's not mapped to something silly, like holding the X button or something, I don't really care. It's out of my way, and if she has it, she has it. If she doesn't, she doesn't. You know, whatever. All right, next character... Silver. I put Silver at number 4 because of a couple reasons. Well, one, just talking about Silver in general, obviously massively improved from Retail 06. He actually functions like a Sonic character. His psychokinesis is incredibly reliable, whether you're crushing enemies by lifting them and then setting them down, whether you're throwing projectiles, they almost always hit their target. They go in a direction that makes sense. The really cool interaction with spike balls. Yeah, I think so, Super Crim. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Being able to pick up spike balls, this isn't something you can do in retail or in, like, really early versions of P-06, I'm pretty sure. But being able to take spike balls and just hold them in front of you and defeat enemies with them is just super cool. That's probably my favorite interaction of psychokinesis with Silver, is that it's something that just, like, makes so much sense and it's so fun. Of course, I have to mention the uplift object jump that is really broken in retail, but basically useless here in P-06. So, you know, talking a little bit about Silver, obviously he's got his upgrades. The Lotus of Resilience, definitely a must-have, giving him that spin jump, along with the teleport dash lasting the length of the meter. The Flame of Control is really cool, while not as game-changing as the Lotus. Having the Psychic Knife available, and I've done testing with it. The Flame of Control claims that it increases the power of projectiles thrown by Silver at other enemies. I think it does. It depends on the object. I don't think it's stuff like enemy projectiles, like this laser, still does 1 damage, even if you don't have the Flame of Control. But maybe, like, throwing boxes or something does. I'm not entirely sure what that means or how it works. And even though I played a lot of P-06, there's still stuff that I don't know about the game. So if someone has any thoughts, please let me know. Obviously, having the Generation Psychic Blade, I know that was a heavily requested feature by people. You could pick up spike balls in retail, but they wouldn't damage. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. You'd pick up the spike ball, but it wouldn't damage enemies unless you threw it. So that was added in P-06 to have spike balls do that. And because I know that someone's gonna say something about this, here I am in Retail 06 after the fact, and just checking. Yeah, when spike balls are held, they don't do shit. You know, no mods, no nothing. This is just Retail 06 on Xenia Canary. So it was something that was added to P-06. But if you throw them, they do damage. Well, sort of anyway. So that was Flame of Control. And then ESP mode, best S-rank ability in the game. First one we're talking about. The 35% cost reduction on your meter, which in earlier videos, I would say 33% just because I think it's easier to visualize. And it's not much of a difference between 33 and 35 anyway, except for like really tight speedrunning tricks, I think. I don't know, I've never tested true 33%, but essentially, reducing the cost of Silver's meter by a third is really fun, especially like with the Psychic Knife, because instead of, I think Silver can throw 3 normally, but when you have ESP mode, you can throw 4, so you get an extra 1 there. And then, of course, all of the other, like, arbitrary shit that it does, like stunning enemies near Silver, or the big ESP Chaos Blast, all of that good stuff. If an enemy's stunned near Silver, the Psycho Smash does damage. I think in his base form, stunned enemies also take damage from the Psycho Smash. Let me see here. Come on. Oh, maybe not. I think it might just stun him. Okay. I thought that the regular Psycho Smash did damage, but I guess it's just ESP mode. One that I honestly didn't think was going to be that useful of ESP mode is, if you don't know, Silver has an ability called the Grab All, which is given to him by purchasing the Power Bracelet, where if you double tap RT, normally Silver picks up items in a cone in front of him, like a fan. You can visualize that there's like a cone in front of Silver in which he can pick up objects. But when you have the Grab All, he grabs stuff in a 360-degree radius around him. A cool thing about ESP mode is that while the Grab All normally stops him from moving, you can Grab All and continue to run, which is honestly super sick, and we use it a couple times, like Silver's Aquatic Base is a notable example where we use it. It makes you feel so badass that you come down in ESP mode, stun a bunch of enemies, pick them up, and destroy them before they can even do anything to you. It's super cool. And obviously, the main thing being the gauge discount is the main contributor to why this ability is so good. It also reflects projectiles. I guess I'll go ahead and show that too, since I was thinking about it. So when enemies throw projectiles at you, it automatically reflects them. You can't stand too close, because there is a minimum distance on it, but like these guys, while I'm in ESP mode, I guess these birds don't care about me, but you can see it with this worm here, is that everything's just being reflected. Really, really neat. Changes his gameplay up a lot. Now, where things get interesting with Silver, and why I think he's character number 4. After speedrunning him a lot, he's missing a little bit of sauce of something that I love about the adventure style, and that's variance in movement. When you do Silver's teleport dash, for the amount of meter that you use, you're going to go the same distance every single time, which is a good thing because he's really easy to pick up as a character because you know, okay, if I have this much action gauge and I do a full teleport dash, I'm going to go that way every single time. Where I think at the high level this falls off is that sometimes when you do a spin dash with Sonic or Shadow, or even like some movement with Blaze, depending on the terrain you're standing on, and I don't know if it's actually a factor right now in P-06 how much you charge the spin dash, but that'll be something we talk about soon. Soon never came, as I completely forgot to talk about this, but in the last release, one of the possible changes is going to be to the spin dash, where instead of getting full speed when you spam it, you'll still be able to spam it, but you'll get more speed if you wait to stop and charge it for a bit. I like this idea on paper, but what it is on paper and how it's going to be in gameplay is very different, but I guess we'll see if it makes it all the way through to the release build. You don't always go the same distance. Your spin dash jumps are different depending on how much speed you have, what the terrain looks like, all sorts of different things. Whether or not you even jump is like a big factor of it too. But with Silver, you do the same thing. You just teleport dash. And I think, especially after playing so much P-06, that kind of mitigates things a little bit. Blaze does not have a transformation, no. She did in development. Extremely easy for beginners. Tails is easy for beginners. Sorry, I'm going to catch up on chat here because I've been yapping a lot. Omega in retail is goated. He is, because he's completely broken with his infinite hover. Maybe I'll do this with Goku chat at some point. I'd be interested to see. Amy's really fun. Do I like the Frontiers Titan themes? Not really. It's not my music. P-06 inherently, that Sonic 06 is a lot shorter. You probably feel that especially Silver stages are a lot shorter because he's significantly sped up in P-06. So like Tropical Jungle and Radical Terrain are way shorter than they used to be. Her Badnik Bounce playing the whole game makes Amy one of the best movement characters. Yes, I love the Badnik Bounce. It's very good. The puzzles are also less janky, yeah. What was I talking about? I think it would be really bad if your teleport dash had like varied movement. What's up, Chaos? I'm just talking about your game and how much I hate it, as per usual. Other than that, like, all improvements to Silver are amazing. Oh, I didn't even talk about this. The Psychic Shot. Great ability. Gives him the ability to actually do something from a distance against enemies, because not only does it stun, but it also can kill. So if you fire multiple Psycho shots, if an enemy's stunned, it does 1 point of damage. which is really nice. But yeah, that's my main gripe with Silver and why he's number 4 on the list is just because there's very little variance in movement. He's very precise, which makes him great for like beginner speedruns and stuff like that, but not really otherwise. Number 3 is Shadow. Well, I guess B rank, because I did this in the order that the speedrun.com page does it, where SAB or 1, 2, 3. So Shadow, why is he number 3? Well, we'll talk about why he's number 3 compared to Spider-Man meme here. I'll talk more about that when I talk about who are number 2 and who's number 1, but Shadow, his dash used to maintain momentum and it was busted as fuck. Yeah. Well, aren't you kind of bringing that back with Silver? Because I know you talked about how much you liked doing the extended teleport dash, where like we'll be able to use a Psycho Smash after a teleport dash and keep our speed. I guess that's just a better way of implementing it, because if you want a precise teleport dash, he then stops. But if you want like a super long teleport dash, you can do it all the way and then do a Psycho Smash to keep your speed. Anyway, talking about Shadow, so Shadow, at his core, is just base Sonic. He's got the Legacy Jump Dash, he's got the Spin Dash. Where I think he is better than Sonic in some ways is his air action, that being the Chaos Spear. Because it's great. I know score attackers fucking love this ability to be able to maintain their combos through being able to get really long chains, and obviously spear bouncing. Great ability. I have nothing bad to say about the Chaos Spear. I think it's implemented super well. But the main thing with Shadow is that he's mostly focused on combat, and right now, something I still say about Silver Patch 1.4, I know it's getting addressed, but this is just the video where I talk about these types of things, so I'm going to talk about it, is the Tornado Kick. The Tornado Kick absolutely nullifies basically every combat ability that Shadow has other than uninhibited mode, because it is just so unbelievably good. If you haven't heard me rant about this ability before, it's really good. That worm has the most health out of any enemy in the game, and I just defeated him in like less than a second with base Shadow. The reason for this is because the Tornado Kick has a spherical radius, so it actually hits stuff slightly above and slightly below Shadow. Like, if we do it underneath this guy, we should hit him, just like that. Additionally, you can press the B button to increase its radius and do more damage. Well, you don't do more damage, but you do more damage as a consequence of it hitting more times. It hits constantly, like a spin dash, so you can hear how it does multiple hits against these bigger guys, even in one kick. It does multiple hits. That guy has 3 health, and I just pressed the B button once. And it does 2 points of damage per hit. So like these guys that normally have 2 health, it just absolutely wrecks them in 1. This ability is too good that it makes Shadow's stages when you speedrun him, or I mean, I don't even know if you're not score attacking, just playing him casually, honestly. Like, he just absolutely obliterates everything in his path, which is really cool. What kind of sucks is that his other abilities are pretty neat too. So to have even uninhibited mode, his S rank ability, completely nullified by a ability he has as base Shadow, it really sucks. Chaos Snap is super cool. I like that it has platforming functionality, in that if you continue to hold the A button after your jump dash, you will snap to the nearest enemy, so essentially you get a longer homing attack with it. It does some extra damage too, I'm pretty sure. Not entirely sure how that calculation works, but I like that. I also like the little detail where each level of Chaos boosts, the aura gets more and more aggressive. That's really neat. The Chaos Lance, whatever. It's not super duper amazing or anything. And then, of course, Chaos Blast is Chaos Blast. Right now, it's way too slow. Especially with the Tornado Kick, there's no reason to use Chaos Blast. Even in, like, the one aquatic base room right before Section 2, where all those worms are super grouped together, it's still faster to Tornado Kick, because the Tornado Kick is just that busted. But his S-rank reward, uninhibited mode, is really fucking cool, basically just for aura alone. Like, this being the really cool cutscene that everyone who's played 06 or has watched the cutscenes of 06, even if you don't like the game, is like, yeah, that shit is really fucking cool that Shadow does at the end, regardless of the story ramifications that it does. That's for another video, but uninhibited mode itself, being able to use it properly in Project 06 is really cool. And of course, not getting the penalty if you're on stuff like pulleys or rails or in automation, stuff like that. Really nice quality of life that I appreciate a lot, because we can take advantage of it in the speedrun. So while Shadow is really good, like, at his core, is just, like, his stages are focused around combat, which become really boring because 99% of his combat encounters can be easily, completely nullified with his tornado kick. But the most fun I have playing as Shadow is when I'm doing basic platforming with him, when I'm using the spin dash, using the jump dash, using the chaos spear in combination with the jump dash refresh. That's when I'm having the most fun with him, and that ignores like 90% of what he does. Also, regular Shadow is just more fun to play as than his vehicles, so the vehicles definitely take things down a notch for me a bit. Even though the vehicles are much better than they are in Retail 06. There's a reason the buggy was removed from Crisis City. And is pretty out of the way in White Acropolis and Wave Ocean. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on Shadow. Not too much. All right, who's going to be A and who's going to be S? Well, I think it's fairly obvious that Blaze, I think, is the second best character in Project 06. She is just so fucking fun. And even though she doesn't have a spin dash, her aerial game is just so sick. Her Fire Claw, the Silver Patch 1.4 version of the Fire Claw, because it's gone under several iterations between the Silver release and Silver Patch version 1.4. Originally, you couldn't, you had to commit fully to it. Like, until Blaze hit something with her Fire Claw, you couldn't get out of it. But now in the Silver Patch, it's been changed. It has variable speed depending on if you're holding the control stick or not. It only lasts a second. If you want to, you can reinitiate it. It's so cool because it's Sonic gameplay in a different way. And I think that's why I like her more than Shadow. Even though Shadow is, like, at his core, just Sonic, which I don't mind at all. I think that's totally fine. It's how it was in Adventure 2. And I don't mind if characters are just reskins of each other, like how popular are cosmetic mods for Sonic games. And most of them are just reskins of whatever Sonic you normally play as, but it's still fun to use them. I don't know, the shit's just so fun. Plus you have the triple jump. Her other abilities, like the claw attack, that it doesn't really do a whole lot, other than it does maintain your speed, which is really nice, like out of dash panels and stuff. We use it a little bit in her Wave Ocean, so I can keep the dash panel speed for a little bit longer here, kind of like Sonic Spin Kick. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. The Spinning Claw is cool. It's what we used to have to use to get her triple jump because the Fire Claw just didn't work the way it does now. But I really like that her Fire Claw is what gives her the triple jump. Like, Blaze's Wave Ocean, I think, is, like, in a vacuum, best level in the game. Specifically because of how fun Blaze is to control and how... I don't want to, like, overblow it, but just, like, how layered Wave Ocean A's level design is, that I think it caters really well to someone like Blaze over someone like Tails, where Tails just flies all over it. With Blaze, you get to kind of go over a lot of it, but you still have to interact with most of the stage. And also, Blaze is just really fucking cool, so that's why she's number 2. Obviously, number 1 is our boy in blue, Sonic the Hedgehog. Unsurprisingly, the top 3 characters are all Sonic in some way. I don't know what to say here. Sonic is easily, by a mile, the best character in this game. The Legacy Jump Dash combined with the Bound Attack and the Jump Dash Refresh, where you can jump dash, do your air action, get another jump dash. Shadow does it too with his Chaos Spear. It's just so good, and it's so fun to keep the speed going. It's essentially P-06's drop dash. The spin dash itself is really fun to use to keep the speed going. Additionally, he's got like some extra moves, kind of like most of the characters do, with the slide, which I don't really use when I play as base Sonic. And then you also got the spin kick, of course, which does the same thing as Blaze's claw attack, where you can maintain your speed after a dash panel. If I can actually hit the dash panel, there we go. So we keep going and keep going. The nail in the coffin, of course, is the gems. These are my favorite power-ups in the entire series. I think the idea of them is so cool. I love that Project 06 adds the ability to level them up. I think it makes it really interesting. Of course, we have Supersonic, which I really like the idea that Supersonic is a weaker form of his normal variant, since you're using the Rainbow Gem and not the Chaos Emeralds to transform into him. So that's really neat. He gets, you know, the extra attributes when you level up the Rainbow Gem, just like the other gems, which is really cool. He gets faster ground speed and jump height at level 2, Arrow of Light at level 3. Really neat. And I mean, I could just go on and on. The blue gem is sick. The purple gem is incredible. The red gem is... the green gem is has some niche use, even, which is pretty cool. Being able to use it for that. The Sky Gem, of course, being super broken in retail. While not as broken here, it can still be really useful to save yourself. White Gem is, Yellow Gem is fantastic. The Thunder Shield is great, especially for newcomers trying to get those S ranks, grabbing them in Crisis City, and then using it to get the S ranks in the rest of the game is really sick. I also like the property. I can't really show it in the test stage, but I can go to Flame Core real quick. This is the last character anyway, so I don't mind. A cool thing about the Yellow Gem is that the Lava and Flame Core counts as damage. And if you use the Yellow Gem, you actually don't get the negative effects of the thing here. So let me just go ahead and level up the Yellow Gem. So now that we have level 3, just to make things easier to demonstrate, being able to run on the lava unencumbered is really cool. I wish it had some use in the speedrun, but it just doesn't. I didn't know that you couldn't spin dash on it, though. That's interesting. That's new to me. If you could spin dash on it, maybe there'd be some use, but yeah, as of right now, just running on it because its normal damage is pretty sick. The Yellow Gem has a natural drain all on its own, which gets slower as you level it up. I would love it if the lava didn't count as hits and it just had like the normal drain while you're on top of the lava, or for any environmental damage, really. I think that'd be really neat and kind of buff it a little bit to make it like more in line with the other gems. But yeah, I don't know what you were expecting, that Sonic was the best character in the Sonic game, but yes, of course he is. And the next two best characters are just Sonic again. Now that I talked about all of this, I wanted to check out the Gaming Riffs video, how they rank the characters, and see how it compares to my list. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is the Gaming Riffs video on his little short he did on P-06 characters from worst to best. I'll have a link in the description. Thank you for making this video, Gaming Riff, because it's what inspired this almost 45-minute long rant that I've gone on. I'll be interested to see what happens when it gets reduced. I didn't realize that this video was gonna be this long.
Ranking the characters in Project 06 from worst to best.
Okay.
Amy is a solid character, but she has little to offer compared to the others. Omega has really good range
Little to offer compared to the others. Okay.
combat, and I love his first-person turret mode. Knuckles has his glide,
Guns
he
are
can
cool.
climb walls, and he has really potent
Oh, we
melee
match
combats.
Knuckles.
Rouge has all of the same abilities as Knuckles, however she has bombs, which gives her better ranged capabilities. Tails has better
That's
combat
basically
than
what I
Rouge,
said.
and his flight is really OP, making him a jack-of-all-trades character. Silver is really powerful in
Sort of. I wouldn't say Tails is necessarily a jack of all trades because Rouge is a combination of these two. Tails is still really good, but he is where he is.
P-06, but I'm not a huge fan of his gameplay, and I think that he has the worst super form of all of the three hedgehogs. Blaze
Yeah, I'm sorry. ESP mode is the best. I do actually see this a lot for like folks who casually play P-06 say that ESP Silver is the worst. I guess it's like not as cool as Supersonic or Uninhibited Shadow, but it's way more insane and has way more practicality than either Supersonic or Uninhibited mode because it's easy to activate. It has the 33% discount. Yeah, definitely hard disagree there. But can you blame them, Chaos? It's not like it's 100% explained how ESP mode works in the first place because there's no good indicator for it other than checking out the Silver bio. But yeah, classic Sonic thing. Gets better when you know how to do it better.
is probably the most well-rounded side character in the game, excelling in every situation and being a joy to play as. Shadow has unparalleled combat capabilities, and he can remove his inhibitor rings to become even more powerful. Enough said. Sonic has the
unparalleled tornado kick, but yeah, different reasons, but I'll give it to you.
Most diverse moveset of any character in the game with the gems, and he can also become Supersonic. For a full in-depth breakdown, check out this video on screen and let me know your rankings down below.
All right, very cool. Well, Gaming Rift, thanks for making that video. It made me want to make this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed my 47 minutes of rambling here about Project 06. I will hopefully edit it down to be less than that. I will do my best. This one will probably take a little bit to come out because I'm very busy at the moment. But, yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day. If you want to make your own list, I'll have a link in the description to my, my tier list.